Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. One of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your host, Sean. This episode, we have got the White Sox game-ending grand slams and the Cubs Mother's Day Marathon pink bats. All this and more on this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. But before we start, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? That means you get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly prices. Unfortunately, the season has ended for our beloved Rockford Ice Hogs, but that doesn't mean you can't celebrate the great season they have by buying a t-shirt or a hat or a jersey at the online store or purchase your season tickets. Season tickets, family-friendly prices. You can bring your whole family. Don't spend an arm and a leg, and it's so much fun. Great for the little ones. Check them out. Icehogs.com. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. All right. I'm going to start with the Cubbies. You know why? Because the Cubbies are absolutely just crushing baseball right now. Then in this show, we're going to talk Cubs, we're going to talk the White Sox, and we're going to wrap it up with a little bit of Bears talk. No Bulls or Blackhawks right now, kind of giving them a rest. They had a long season. We're going to give them a rest a little bit. And we're going to talk a little bit of Bears because I had a few questions and comments from YouTube listeners that I wanted to talk about. So let's talk about, I guess we could talk about the Cubs first. We talked about on the last episode, and this is, I'm going to apologize right now about this episode is late. It's Tuesday night. We usually have it up Sunday night, and Sunday was Mother's Day, and last night I fell asleep on the couch. I was like, I'm going to record, and then I put my daughter to sleep, and I crashed. And then I woke up, and I was yawning like crazy, and I didn't want to be yawning on the show. So instead, I watched, I believe it's called This Magic Moment. It was the 30 for 30 ESPN documentary about the Orlando Magic, the rise with Shaq and Penny Hardaway. And I watched it because Penny Hardaway and Akeem Olajuwon are my two all-time favorite non-Bulls players. So it was nice to see both of them in the same episode. I like Penny Hardaway, and it's so it was fun. It was a good watch. I recommend watching it. It was a good one. It was one of my favorite of the 30 for 30 episodes. But anyway, that's what happened. I apologize. So you get it Tuesday night. It just means you get the next one sooner. But last time we talked about how, sure, the Cubs had a really good record, but had they had a big challenge yet? Yeah, they played the Cardinals, but the Cardinals are struggling still a little bit. They're scoring a lot of runs, but they're giving up a lot of runs as well. And they're only about a 500 record right now. I didn't look at it today, but last time I looked, I think they were like 14-13 or 15-14, whatever. It was right hovering around the 500 mark. So yeah, that was a test. But we were talking about how the big upcoming test was the 7-game stretch where it was 3 games against Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh and then 4 games at home against the Washington Nationals, who had, at the time, the best record in baseball. And, before that week started, best record in baseball. And this was going to be the early season defining moment of how good this team really is. We know that they're good, but how good is this team? And they go on to sweep Pittsburgh. I mean, whitewashed them. It wasn't even close. Like, they just whitewashed Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. And this is not taking anything away from Pittsburgh. the Pirates are a really good baseball team. They've got solid hitting, solid fielding. They've got timely hitting. They got power, speed. They're a really good team. They just ran into a buzzsaw. They ran into a buzzsaw known as the Chicago Cubs and got whitewashed right out. Let's take a look at these a little bit. That first game, at that point, the Cubs were only 2 games up in the win column on Pittsburgh. So, I mean, really, this series could have knotted up or Pittsburgh taken the lead in the division. Cubs were only up by 3 games, and Cubs come in game 1 and whitewash Pittsburgh 7-2. Hamill didn't even have his good stuff early on. He went 5. I mean, let's take it back a step. Did he pitch well? Oh yeah, he pitched well, but Hamill didn't pitch like he had been pitching his first several starts of the season so far. He only went 5 innings and he gave up 2 runs. But the more important thing is that Garrett Cole, who's a really good pitcher, the Cubs got to him early. He only pitched 4 2/3 innings, gave up 5 runs, 6 hits, 4 walks, and it was just led. The onslaught was led by Ben Zobrist and the old man David Ross. I mean, I don't know what else to say about this. This team takes pitchers, doesn't matter how good they are, if they're not consistently throwing strikes and having good movement and stuff on their strikes, this Cubs team is going to work you. They're going to work the count. They're going to make you have high pitch counts. I forgot what game it was the other day. I believe it might have been, God, I don't even remember what game it was. I wrote it down and then I lost that where I wrote it down. But I was listening to the game on the radio in my car, and the Cubs, after 2 innings of pitching, the opposing pitcher had pitched 50 pitches already. 50 pitches in 2 innings. Like, you really don't want to work them too much more than 100 pitches. On that pace, it's 4 innings. When you're knocking the starter out, even if you're not scoring runs on him, you knock him out in 4 innings, you are chewing through that bullpen. It's, I mean, 4 2/3. Half the game is still left to go, and your starting pitcher is out, and you're working the bullpen. So you just work away at them, and these starting pitchers just don't stand a chance. I mean, really, one pitcher so far has just dominated the Cubs, and that was the guy from Colorado. And I said that was probably going to happen because he's got good movement on his fastball, and he just consistently throwing strikes, and that's like the Cubs' weakness right now. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And then Tuesday they go game 2 of the series, and they whip Pittsburgh 7-1. Jake Arrieta follows up his no-hitter with 7 innings pitched of give up no runs, 2 hits, and the opposing pitcher, he was 3-0 going into this game, and he only ended up pitching 5, gave up 9 hits, 5 walks, 6 earned runs. Again, led by Ben Zobrist, this time with Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo, all getting to him. What else? Game 3, Pittsburgh lost 6-2. I mean, the closest game in the series was 4 runs, 4-run differential. Lester went 5 2/3 and didn't give up a run. 2 home runs by Ben Zobrist, and the Cubs go into the series up by 3, being Pittsburgh right on breathing down their neck, and they wind up coming out of this 6 games up on Pittsburgh. And then you follow it up with 4 straight games against Washington. And Washington's a really good team. Again, I even think Washington's better than Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's a really good team. Washington's a legitimate team. You can't you can't take anything away from them. They've got good pitching, they've got power. The Cubs just went in there again and did their thing. And the big knock on the Cubs is, all right, well, we all know that they can score a bunch of runs and they can beat you up 16-0 or 7-1. But what happens what happens if they can't generate a lot of runs? Can they win a 1-run small ball game? And they did. What happens when the game is pressured in extra innings? Javi Baez comes up and hits a home run. Mother's Day, with his pink bat and his weird arm sleeve, comes up there and just knocks one out of the park. This team just doesn't have any quit in them. They're up on the second best record in baseball by like 4 games. It's unbelievable. What else do I have? Game against, and every day I like is there's just been a new hero, and it doesn't mean that there's one person leading this offense. Like, if they wasn't for this guy hitting a grand slam, we would never have scored. It's just one guy is dominant, but everybody's taking part in this. I mean, Addison Russell came up big with a clutch hit in Game 3 against Washington. And I mean, so far, this Washington series is the only one that the Cubs really had a lot of adversity in. They came from behind, they battled back. I mean, that Addison Russell hit in Game 3 is the Cubs battled back. They were losing. They came back, and I think it was one of the only few games this season where the Cubs really had to come back and come from behind and win. They've really just started out, right out of the get-go, leading, and then don't look back from there. Some people say it's easy to win games when you get ahead early and stay ahead. But the Cubs showed that they can come from behind too. This is a no-joke team. And speaking of Addison Russell, I heard a caller on one of the sports radio stations, and he said that Addison Russell's terrible. He can't hit and he can't field. I don't know what to say about this. Is everybody wants to find a reason to be upset with the Cubs because we're Cubs fans? Well, a lot of us are Cubs fans. And as Cubs fans, we know that there's another shoe somewhere that's going to drop. We thought the other shoe that was going to drop was when we lost the big fella to the knee injury. When he went down, I think a lot of people thought that's the shoe, that's it. The season's, we're going to be good, but we can't win it without him. How are we going to win without Kyle Schwarber? Without Kyle Schwarber, how are we going to win? He's Babe Ruth. And a lot of people thought that. But the Cubs go on and they tough it out and they win. They win. Great pitching, great hitting, great fielding. It's they just keep winning. So what must the other shoe be? Because there's got to be another shoe. And maybe it's, Addison Russell is short, can't hit. The kid's like, he's not even legally old enough to drink. He's really young. And fielding wise, statistically last year, he was not only a top 5 fielding second baseman, but he was a top 5 fielding shortstop in all of baseball. So he's one of the best infielders, the best fielding infielders in all of baseball. Sure, he had an error the other day that almost cost the Cubs a game, but he came back, and I think that was the same game he got the hit in that helped them win the game. He got it back. I mean, there's nobody going to go through a whole season without an error. It's especially in a shortstop. You get a lot of balls hit to you. You're going to make a mistake, but he's so good. He's got such good range. He makes everything look easy. He's so good that you can't knock his fielding ability. You can't. The Cubs, the way the formation has been the last few days, the Cubs have a stellar fielding infield. Ben Zobrist is a pretty good second baseman. Anthony Rizzo is a pretty good fielding first baseman. Addison Russell is a phenomenal fielding shortstop, and Javi Baez is a really good fielding third baseman. I mean, Chris Bryant is okay. Nothing special. He can make some good plays, but he has some errors too. He's okay. But Javi Baez is a really good fielding third baseman. And the way this infield has been it's just that's tough to beat. When you get on base a lot from walking, you have power, you've got great pitching, and you're not giving up runs on the field. And when you're looking at this team, this Cubs team, they're not just beating up on the slouches, they're beating up on everybody that's come to them except for Colorado. And I don't think Colorado's that good. It just matched up well with the Cubs, the way that they've been playing. But in a series, in a 7-game series, no way Colorado can beat the Cubs the way they're playing. And then you look at the way they were built. In the beginning of the season, we were like, all right, well, what's going to happen with Javi Baez? Is he going to get sent down? Are they going to play him in the minors? What are you going to do with Matt Caesar? Because you can't send him down, and you've got too many outfielders and not enough positions. And you see that they were so smart. Jed and Theo, the way they put this team together is, I'm sure nobody was anticipating this massive injury to Kyle Schwarber in his knee, but they put together a team because they have a lot of talent to put in this roster, and it's coming to play that everybody's stepping up and coming up big. Javi Baez, who would have thought that he would be a huge cog in this team the way they're playing? It's unreal. I never would have thought that. A couple years ago, Javi Baez was the hot name, the hot prospect, but he's, the last year or two, we didn't see much from him. A lot of strikeouts, record-setting strikeouts. It was all or nothing, home run or strikeout, home run or strikeout. And he's still not batting phenomenally. He still looks bad up there sometimes, but he's even that swing out a lot, and he's playing much better. His on-base percentage isn't the great. He's not going to be one of those guys like Addison Russell, David Ross, Ben Zobrist that are going to work that count hard, but he's got enough speed on that bat where he's learning to not get beaten by bad pitches. He's not going to swing at the terrible ones anymore. He might miss, but he's not going to swing at the terrible ones anymore. And he's been a huge, huge boost for this team. Number one with his fielding, because he's a stellar fielder and he's versatile enough. You could put him at second, short, third, put him at first. He can field first. You could put him at the corner outfield spots. He's just an all-around good asset. He's like a Ben Zobrist, where he can play a lot of positions and he can give you a nice bat. Not counting whatever's happening today against the Padres, Javi Baez is batting .304. That's nice. And then you look at some of the plays he had at third base. There was the one where it was what was his name, John Jasso. He had that check swing that he hit the ball and it went down the third baseline, and Baez made a spectacular play on that. And then he followed it up with the David Freese chopper down third. Then he made that one look easy. He's just a smooth fielder, and if you add in there the power he brings, you got to respect it. Look at Mother's Day. They didn't respect that power, had a hanging slider, and boom, game over. Cubs win. He's starting to swing out. He's not batting 175 or 200. He's batting over 300. Sure, his on-base percentage isn't nearly hot. A lot of the Cubs players are, 100-plus points on their OBP above their batting average. But Javi Baez is never going to be that guy, but at least he's going to give you pop, and he's starting to strike out a lot less. I mean, if you look at him, his strikeout rate is actually less than Dexter Fowler. And so he's definitely cut down on that strikeout ratio. Ben Zobrist now, he is putting on a hitting clinic. It's just been unreal. Like the guy, he showed pop in his bat as he had 3 home runs this week. Just seeing eye singles, getting a bat on the ball when he's not getting hits. He's working in that count, getting on base. At least if he's going to make an out, he's making a tough out. It's been great to see. And then the slogan that started with last year from old Joe Madden is What did he say to Dexter Fowler? You go, we go. You go, we go. And that was his slogan to get Dexter Fowler going, is if you can get on base and you can get hits and you can score runs, that's going to jumpstart this whole offense. This offense lives and dies through Dexter Fowler, which is great because I was so sad that they were going to let him go. And when they last second brought him back, I was so sure he was going to Baltimore. But when they bring him back, I'm ecstatic because I knew this would be huge for this team. And I know they'll win games without him, and he's going to go through slumps, and he's not going to continue hitting like he is. But he jump-started this team and has helped them propel them to where they are now. I mean, as of today's game, his .343 batting average, .460 on base percentage, and over 1,000 OBP or OPS. So he's got power. He's getting on base. He's drawing walks. He's got 11 doubles, and you're just seeing the evolution of this guy, and he is going to earn a huge contract, and he's going to deserve it. And I don't think it'll be with the Cubs next year, but whoever he signs with, he's going to earn every penny of that this year. With Miguel Montero's nagging back injury, and he missed a good amount of time, especially during this week, but he's starting his rehab assignment at the Iowa Cubs. So he'll get a game or two under his belt there, get some swings in, and then be back with the Cubs. But the issue is David Ross had to play a lot, and he's like 100 years old. And I don't care that it's when he comes up to the plate, it's playing forever young. He's an old man, but he has been phenomenal. Not only with his bat, his bat has been very good. It hasn't been the best percentage, but he has great at bats up there. He's drawing walks. He's got timely hitting. I didn't pull any statistics, but I bet in clutch situations, I bet he's batting over 300. He's looked great. And then that on-base percentage is almost 350. For a guy not hitting well, that's phenomenal. And it's not just with his bat, it's with his arm and his framing. I mean, Miguel Montero was the guy brought in to be the expert framer and best fielding catcher. But David Ross has been great, and he's a wily old veteran. Look how he helps John Lester. Those slick pickoff moves at first. John Lester's not going to keep that guy on at first. But you know what? David Ross is. Because if you're going to take a big lead, you're either going to have a good throw at second, or if you don't take off, he's firing at the first and is going to try to get you. And he might get you. He's got a good percentage of throwing people out. He just looks good out there, but he's playing a lot of time because of the Montero injury. What else with the Cubs? I mean, just looking at the team stats, they're leading baseball with their on-base percentage. They have a .370 on-base percentage as a team. That's ridiculous. That's really good. Their slugging percentage, they're right at the tops. They're 7th in the league with a .442 slugging percentage, and their OPS as a team is 811. 811. That's a really good OPS. You look at their walk numbers as a team. They're 20% higher, the number of walks they have, over the second best team in baseball. Cubs have 156 walks to 130 for San Francisco. And their strikeouts have gone way down. If you look at the number of strikeouts, they're not the Angels with their 166, but the Cubs are 24th out of 30 teams in strikeouts. Last year, they had a lot of strikeouts, and that was a big problem, is how we talked about this before the season. Is one big question mark with the Cubs was, could they cut down on those strikeouts? And so far, they really have. It's been, just phenomenal. You look at the run production, number one in runs, 184. Number of hits, they are, where are they at in number of hits? They're 12th in hits. Number one in walks. They are number 7 in doubles. They're number 12 in triples. They are number 12 in home runs. It's just as you go. It's this team is just phenomenal at all these numbers, and what's been great is that they've been great pitching wise as well as fielding wise. I mean, if you look at some of their defensive statistics, if you look at the number of defensive runs prevented, is the White Sox are very good in this too, but the Cubs have 23 runs saved with their defense. It's great. I mean, if you look at the defensive efficiency ratio, which is it's a fancy statistic that it's the rating of team defense outs recorded in defensive opportunities. And Cubs are number 1 in baseball in defensive efficiency ratio. They're playing great defense, and that was another big question mark going into the season is could they improve on defense? Because against the Mets in the NLCS last year, is defense was a big problem. Part of the reason that the Mets won. I mean, there was a lot of reasons the Mets won, but that was one of the big reasons is the Cubs defensively weren't playing well. If you look at team ERA, Cubs are number 1 in baseball. Number 1 in baseball in team ERA with a 2.48. The Mets are second best with 2.77. So I mean that's a fairly significant difference between those two. What else? Number of home runs allowed. The Cubs are 28th out of 30 teams in baseball in number of home runs allowed. They're not giving up the home run. The number of walks given up. Cubs are 24th out of 30th. So they're not walking people, but they're drawing walks. Number of strikeouts. Cubs are 8th in baseball. If you talking about team whip, Cubs are number 1. Team whip of 1.03. Team as the whole pitchers. That's disgusting. So you have the best hitting team in baseball, coupled with the best pitching team in baseball, coupled with the best defensive playing team in baseball, and of course they're going to be the best team in baseball. There's no arguing. There's not even an argument for this that the Cubs aren't the best team in baseball. It's just unreal how good they are. And they've got, if we're looking at their schedule, they've got these 3 games against the Padres, who are powder puffs. But then you get 3 at home versus Pittsburgh. But then you get 3 against the Brewers. That's when you start. So next week, get a little bit of a reprieve. But then next weekend, that's when they start a big tough streak. They go 3 on the road at San Francisco Giants, and then they have to go without a day off 3 in St. Louis. That's going to be another big test for this team. So there's not a lot of cakewalk left in this month, because really they've got 3 against the Brewers and 3 against the Padres, but then those are the powder puff ones. But you got 3 for the Pirates, 3 Giants, 3 Cardinals, 3 Phillies, and 2 Dodgers. All are very good teams right now. So this is not a cakewalk. This is not the time that you're looking to pad your schedule. This is kind of hanging in there. And so it's gonna be a lot of hard fought games. So you're gonna expect this team to start coming back down to earth a little bit. Do I expect them to lose these series? I mean, they'll beat up on the Padres and the Brewers. You have to like their chances of winning the series, taking 2 out of 3 against the Pirates. But then you've got that 6-game road trip. Well, it's 9 days in a row. It's 3 in Milwaukee, but that's kind of like a home game. But then you go from a day game on a Thursday at Milwaukee fly out to San Francisco for 3 night games, and then 24 hours later you're playing against the Cardinals in St. Louis. So, I mean, you got to expect they're going to take 3 out of 3 from the Brewers. But then it's going to depend on pitching matchups with the Giants and the Cardinals. You get a day off, and then you get the Phillies and Dodgers. It's going to be tough. I mean, you expect the Cubs to keep a good record, but they're going to come back down to earth a little bit. But they're not the only team in town. We've got 2 first place teams here. The White Sox have been playing absolutely lights out baseball as well. If you look at the record, they're 6 games up on the second best team in the Central Division. White Sox are 23-10 as it stands right now. Last I checked, they were losing this game to Texas, but nothing's over until it's over. But they're 23-10, 7-3 in their last 7-3 in their last 10, 4-game winning streak, 6 games up on Cleveland, and the second best record in baseball behind the Cubs. And they're only how many games are they behind the Cubs? They are 2.5 games behind the Cubs. The Cubs are just killing it, and the White Sox are just hanging there right with them. So it hasn't been a cake, or it's been a great season for both Chicago baseball teams. And we had last week was the first time in Major League Baseball where you've had 4 division winners or 4 division leaders all playing in the same city at the same time. You had the Red Sox in town playing the White Sox. At the same time, the Nationals were in town playing the Cubs. The Nationals were in first place in the NL East. The Cubs were first and are first now in the NL Central. White Sox are first in AL Central, and at the time, I don't know if it's still true. The Red Sox were first place in the East, and it still is. They're up on Baltimore still. So it was really great baseball in town, and the White Sox started that series off with a great win, 4-1 against the Red Sox. Quintana has been lights out this season. As great as Chris Sale has been, and it surprisingly good Matt Latos has been. This is this has been a Carlos Quintana year. And he's pitching stupid well. He's pitching so well. And he had another great, and he's pitched well the last several years, but it's never been showcased so much because just the lack of run support, and they usually lose those games. He gets no decisions. But he's been great this year again. Lights out, 8 innings pitched, only 4 hits, 1 earned run. You had that 3 RBIs by Jose Abreu in the Sox 4-1 win over Boston. But then came game 2 of that series, and Carlos Rodon has showed he's been a tale of 2 pitchers. He got lit up that night. 6 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, and you had Clay Buchholz, who just, he turned into Curt Schilling in his prime. He pitched 7 innings, only 2 earned runs, and only 3 hits. You had the big home run by Big Papi in one of his last games ever, or his last game ever, I think, in Chicago, or at least against the White Sox in Chicago. So you had Big Papi hit the home run, and the Red Sox take that one 5-2, but the White Sox, still playing tough in there. And then you have the White Sox play the Twins, get that big sweep, and then I didn't have much else to say because it was a pretty one-sided series. The White Sox look great there, but the big one was last night's game. Is the White Sox are up by 1. They've had the best bullpen in baseball. Their starters are probably only second best to the Cubs, but their relievers have just been absolutely lights out. And another team finally gets to the White Sox bullpen, ties it up, and you think, all right, they've kept the White Sox at bay. They've gotten to their starting pitchers. They finally got to their closers. Tie this one up, send it to extra innings, and there you go with the big Todd Frazier grand slam. And Todd Frazier might not be hitting spectacularly well, but he is crushing the ball. If he's not leading the league in home runs, he's got to be one or two shy of that mark because he is just clobbering home runs left and right. Been a great pickup. And as a whole, this has been a huge turnaround for this team. This was a team that on paper before last season started, I thought looked good, but they just lacked character. They lacked leadership. They lacked defensive prowess, and they've really turned that around. You think about it, their defense was pretty poor last year, especially in the outfield. You add Austin Jackson. Austin Jackson's not hitting well, but he's playing so well on defense that he's making everybody else look good, because Adam Eaton is not a good fielding center fielder, but you put him in right field, you insert Dexter Fowler playing stellar center field, and then you move Adam Eaton from center to right, and suddenly he's a very good right fielder. Several assists, good arm out there, just looks like a natural right fielder. Melky Cabrera doesn't have to get as far in left field. He's playing good left field. And it also takes Avi Garcia out of the outfield, puts him at DH. It just automatically makes everything better in that fielding wise in that outfield. And then you toss in there, Jose Abreu is a meh first baseman, but Brett Lawrie is a pretty good fielding second baseman. Todd Frazier is a pretty good fielding third baseman. You add a few key pieces in there, and the defense gets better. And that was a big problem from last year. Brett Lawrie and Todd Frazier are two different styles of guy, but both have been leaders on this team. And you had some addition by subtraction, and you got a guy like Jose Abreu who just goes out there and leads by example. Brett Laurie's a fire and yell and hype up guy, kind of like Chris Sale. And then you've got Todd Frazier, who's just he's another guy who's soft spoken and fun, friendly guy, and he does his leadership that way. And unlike some people saying Drake LaRoche was the team leader, clearly not. He was leading right in the turd hole. This is a great team, and then you saw they've got the leadership, they've got the defensive prowess, and now they're getting timely hitting. Again, they're not tearing it up as far as their hitters go, and nobody's gotten these stellar stats going on for the most part, other than maybe Adam Eaton, but they have got a lot of timely hitting, and they've got good pop in those bats. The one key difference between them and the Cubs is drawing the walks. That's, if they were drawing the walks like the Cubs, this would be a really dangerous team too. And that's just another thing is the White Sox have been putting the ball in play instead of getting the walks. So we'll see how that affects them. And I wanted to go back very quickly. There's something I forgot to mention about the Cubs is I've got a couple of emails being critical of Jason Hayward, the Cubs' big free agent signing, and he's terrible, he's awful, I can't believe we got a guy that can't hit. And I want to revisit this and just say, relax. It's stealing Aaron Rodgers' line, but relax. We are in the beginning part of the season. He's nursing a wrist injury. He's still a phenomenal right fielder, arguably the best fielding right fielder in the game. He has saved you so many runs with his outfield prowess. Dexter Fowler's not the best fielding center fielder, but he's been a lot better when he's got somebody in right field playing well. So defensively, he's been great. He runs the bases well. Sure, on Mother's Day, he took a chance, but that was a phenomenal play to get him out. But batting-wise, I'm not worried about it because he's getting on base. He's got a good on-base percentage. Let me draw him up really quick. All right, Jason Hayward has a 317 on base percentage. And for a guy that's hitting 212, that's pretty good. And his OPS is 727. It's not terrible. It's not great, but I know a lot of people are mad at that 212 number. But I want to point out, I pulled up statistics month by month over Jason Hayward's career. And Jason Hayward, for the months of March and April, is a career 224 hitter. Career 224 hitter in those months. He gets better. He works better. He's a notorious slow starter. I mean, I know we're into the first week or so of May, but trust me, the guy is going to get better. He's, if nothing else, you're going to see Joe Madden move him around in the lineup to find a comfort spot for him before moving him back up to where he is now at the batting the top of the order. But Jason Hayward is a really good hitter. Look at how many times when he played for the Cardinals did he kill the Cubs. He's a good fielder. He's a line drive hitter. A lot of doubles, a lot of just solid contact. He's going to be great. He's the perfect guy that you want in the Jed Theo model. But you got to give him a chance to warm up. You don't need him to be great right now. Your team is just destroying everybody else. He's literally just beating up on everybody. In your division, you're up by 8 games in first place. 8 games on the next best team. You've got a big cushion. Not a lot of people on the Cubs roster are hitting well, but they're getting on base and they're getting timely hitting. Just give Jason Hayward a chance. He's going to come around. By the end of the season, he's going to be batting his 280, and he's going to have really good numbers. You're going to be very happy. Just give him time. Watch by the time mid-June rolls around. Come the end of the season when you need him to be batting great, come September and October, he's going to be there hitting great. So there you go. White Sox. Let's go back to the White Sox. Sorry for jumping back and forth. It was just something I meant to talk about and I completely forgot. If you're looking at sortable team stats here for the White Sox, I mean they're doing really well too. Let's quickly look at hitting. White Sox have a 254 team batting average, which is not bad. They're probably right up there in home runs, and they're surprisingly not. They're 18th in home runs. RBIs, wow, their offensive stats are not nearly as good as I thought. 15th in RBIs, but they're getting timely scoring. But pitching, now here we go. I know they'll be right up here. Pitching, and this is good with John Danks in the lineup. This is basically 4 pitchers for the White Sox, and John Danks has got designated for assignment. They parted ways with John Danks, and rightfully so, because he's been really bad. But you tried Eric Johnson. You've tried a few guys. You tried a few guys there, and you're going to see who sticks at that number 5 spot. And if nothing else, they're going to be willing to make moves to get somebody and get a 5th starter. But the White Sox, 3rd overall in ERA. Cubs are first at 2.48. The Mets 2.77, and the White Sox 2.79. You subtract John Danks out of there, and they've got to be right up there with the Cubs. Strikeouts, the White Sox are 13th. Team whip, where are the White Sox at? They're 4th, 1.15. That's 1.15 is not bad for a single pitcher, but then you have to consider that your whole team, and that's again including John Danks' terrible numbers. I wish you could include no John Danks in there and see how good these numbers are. So the White Sox have just been a really good all-around team. And again, we talked about the Cubs, how they were statistically the best defensive team in baseball, and that they had their defense had saved 23 runs over the season. The White Sox, they've saved 11 runs from their defense, and statistically, they're tied for second with Tampa Bay as the second best fielding team in baseball. This is, they've improved vastly on their defense, and this is a team that a lot of us were wondering if this was lightning in the bottle or if this was a legitimate team playing here. And you have to say that, sure, they have more question marks than the Cubs, but they've also got the talent to play right alongside the Cubs. They've got just as much power as the Cubs, if not more power. They've got left-handed pitching out the yin-yang. Matt Latos has been great. He's been a great pickup. He got hit a couple days ago, but he's been great otherwise. Carlos Rodon, he's been a Jekyll and Hyde a little bit, but his stuff is so good that you can't ignore him. I mean, when his stuff is on, he's just unhittable. Quintana has been fabulous, and Chris Sale is one of the best pitchers in baseball. What they need to do is they need to find a right-handed starter to put in that fifth spot, and if they can get a left-handed bat in that lineup, this is gonna be just a ridiculously tough to beat team. And the big question marks going in are, can they keep hitting without hitting for average? I mean, without great hitting statistics, can they keep scoring runs consistently? And two, can they find that fifth starter? Right now they're rotating through, trying to find who's going to be that's going to be pitching for them. Like I said, they gave Eric Johnson a shot after they DFA'd John Danks, and he didn't pitch terribly great. He got the loss, 7.2 ERA and a 2.2 WHIP. And Gonzalez has gotten 2 starts so far, and he hasn't quite been the answer. 4.91 ERA in his 2 starts with a 1.73 WHIP. But those are all better than John Danks' 7.25 ERA in 4 starts with a 1.75 WHIP. Teams were batting .322 against him. He's terrible. At least these other guys, like Eric Johnson, is a AAA pitcher. You can't expect a lot out of him. And Gonzalez is, you feel like he's gonna get better. He's shown that he's got good stuff in the league. So it's going to be just finding that fifth guy. I think that's the biggest question mark. Whereas the Cubs, you've got several guys who are long relievers that could be starters, like Travis Wood, like Adam Warren, like Trevor Cahill. These are guys that you could put in that spot if you need to. So it's the Cubs, you feel like, have a little more versatility there than the White Sox, but the White Sox have been fantastic, and you can't take anything away from them, and they've just played so well, and they just don't stop battling. And people keep asking me if I would be excited about a Cubs-Sox World Series. And on one hand, I say yes, because that would be incredible. Chicago is going to have a World Series. Boom, no doubt about it. One of them has to win. But the pessimist side of me says, all right, there's just going to be so much animosity. There's going to be so much fighting. I see the way people behave when both teams stink, like the last couple of years. Both teams stink, and they're playing the Crosstown Classic. There's so much infighting and bickering, and when the games don't matter, it's regular season games, they don't matter, and both teams are bad. Like, just imagine if it's on the spotlight, the whole world is watching, and the games matter, and there's actual a value in these games. It's going to get ugly, and it's not just going to get ugly during this series, but afterwards too. There's going to be so many hurt feelings, there's going to be butthurtness, and it's going to be, I'm a Cubs fan, but it's going to be worse if the White Sox were to win, because the Cubs will have lost again. This team that's crushing everybody lost to the White Sox. and the White Sox have 2 now in the last 2005 and then 2016. So it's in 2 and 11 years, and the Cubs haven't had one in 100 and some years. And there's more Cubs fans, and there's just more butthurtdom. It would just be really ugly. You don't want to see either team lose, but I think it would be bad for this city. I don't know what the tone was when the Mets and the Yankees played, but I just don't think there's that animosity there. And it's sad because you just want to see both teams do well, unless you're one of those bitter people. And that's all I really want to talk about baseball. And I want to move on a little bit. I was just going to talk baseball, like this was going to be just a baseball show, but I had some comments about football. The Bears are mostly done signing all of their picks. I think they just have Jonathan Bullard and Leonard Floyd left to sign, but from what I'm hearing is they're going to be signed and they'll be here for this weekend's rookie minicamp. But I had one person that said they completely agreed with my analysis on the Bears draft so far, that they knew they had to get more athletic, and that they really think that Leonard Floyd is going to be a great fit with Vic Fangio, and give some props for moving up. And I appreciate that. That's really what I think is. I'm not fully sold on Leonard Floyd, but I'm sold on Vic Fangio. And if he feels that he's going to be able to situationally play him and get a lot of dynamic pass rush out of him, then I believe you, and I'm going to wait to see before I pass judgment. And then I had another person that said they picked Leonard Floyd because he was the best player available on their board. I'm not sold on Tunsil, and neither are they. After Leonard Floyd, there's a clear drop-off in which you can make a case that there's no best player available. And of course, at that point, he was their best player available because they traded up to get him. So clearly he was the guy they wanted, and they were so worried about that there was nobody else after them. And I talked about that before the draft is the old saying is in the first round, if you are spot 15, you need 15 players that you're comfortable drafting, because that way you can get at least somebody you like. And the Bears were 11th at that time, and I couldn't find 11 guys that I would be willing to draft. You had to hope for help to come in and to be able to get the guy you want. And I really wanted the big defensive tackle out of Oregon, DeForest Buckner, but he didn't. He went really early. So apparently Leonard Floyd was the best guy available on their board, and they traded up to get him. So yeah, and that's not a doubt about that. I just, if I was the GM, I don't know if he would be on my best player available list right there. Just a difference of opinion. But I do agree with you that there's a huge drop off. This was a weird draft. Is typically you've got a lot of front end talent, and then it just really you see a drop off afterwards. There was a couple of potentially very good players, and then a big drop off, and then it just steady. They're the second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round, sixth rounds, all very deep. A lot of players that can really play, but I feel like the first round is going to be full of a ton of busts. When you have those who should have drafted what, or redrafting the 2016 NFL draft in a couple of years, you're going to see it's going to be wildly different than what actually happened, because I think you're going to get a lot of value players out of the second, third, fourth, fifth rounds, and you're going to have a lot of busts in the first round. It's really my opinion on it, and we shall see what happens there. So I'm glad that people are reacting to my draft analysis, and I really think that the Bears did a good job of deciding on what their identity is going to be, what kind of players they want to put in this team, and having a plan to go get it. And that was my biggest criticism of Jerry Angelo and Phil Emery. is I've never felt like they had a cohesive plan of how to get better. It was always they would make a big splash here and try to get a home run in the fourth round with a boomer bust guy, and a lot of times they'd bust. I never felt like there was a plan. They were just like they were hoping that they got this player that was great without looking at the qualities of them. And I feel like now the Bears are really identifying characteristics and traits to have a cohesive team that is a good team. So I like what they're doing. What else? Is I had somebody email me and ask me, who should we watch out for? I'm paraphrasing now because I didn't print the question. I just am paraphrasing. It was basically what name players that we know are going to be on a big risk for getting cut from this team during training camp. So who are the surprise names we're going to see? And I don't know if we're going to see any huge surprises if you're really paying close attention to what's happening. But for most fans, and I'm one of the crazy ones that watches NFL 365 days a year. I'm watching scouting combines. I'm watching the NFL combine. I'm watching pro days. Everything in the draft, and I go to training camp. I really want to see what's going to happen. So if you're a fan that's until they have pads on, you're not really paying attention, which is most normal people. You're going to be shocked at some names, and I think Jaquiz Rodgers gone. I don't think there's much of a chance of seeing him. You picked up a steal in the 5th round, and then you've got Kadeem Carey and Jeremy Langford, who you're both coaching staff is very high on both. So you've already got your three-headed monster there. I don't see them carrying 4 or 5 running backs. Wide receivers, I have a feeling that between Wilson and Royal, you're only going to see one of those two make the roster. And those are two names that you know well, and I think only one of them is going to make the roster. Christian Jones, I don't think he makes the roster. They've added way too many linebackers, and he lost his spot. He won a spot last year, but then he lost it to John Timu, an undrafted rookie. John Timu's still here. What did Christian Jones do to leapfrog him? And on top of that is you had probably the worst set of inside linebackers in football. You added one of the better inside linebackers in football, and then you added a very solid young veteran. So you've got 2 good inside linebackers that are going to be your starters. So it's going to be who's going to be the backup, and that backup better play special teams. Christian Jones didn't play much special teams last year, if at all. And if you cut him, you're saving like $650,000 towards the cap. It's not a ton of money, but if you can have an undrafted kid or your first year player in like Kwiatkowski, and John Timu as your second year undrafted player, you're going to be paying much less money. And the Bears have plenty of room, but why spend it just to spend it? Might as well spend it with guys that are going to play special teams and be good contributors there. Best player wins that battle. So I don't think you're going to see Christian Jones. I keep hearing people talk about how Lamar Houston probably won't be here. And again, it would be a lot like the Matt Slauson thing. Was Matt Slauson on the right side of the 30 years old? No. Was he the best? Was he as good last year as he was the first year they brought him in? No. Was he still a solid player? Oh, absolutely. But they felt that when you balance ability to play, future performance because of what they expect from you at your age and how many miles you have on your body, and then you look at his contract and how much money he was making, they felt that the balance wasn't there. So they parted ways with him. And when I hear about it, I understand it. I talked about it before, But Matt Slauson he's a really great teammate, a great guy, and you want to treat him right. So the best thing to do is they just knew that he wasn't going to win the starting job. You don't want to have a guy like him backing up, especially at his salary. So let him go really early, give him plenty of time to catch on with another team and get another contract. I think it's the nice thing to do, and in a league full of business, it's business. You like to see a move where they had the player's best interest in mind as well as the team's. And they've done that a couple times. So people keep talking about that could be a situation like with Lamar Houston. Lamar Houston has made a lot of money playing for the Bears, and he hasn't had a lot of production, mostly due to injury, but some due to just poor play. But I really feel like he fits in well, and I really feel like he is an asset to this team in getting to the quarterback, especially when you put them in a rotation. You're not going to put Leonard Floyd in there every snap like Jared Allen did while he was here. You're gonna want to rotate these guys, and you might as well have the guy who led you in sacks last year. Give him a bunch of reps too. You've got plenty of room in the cap. Is pay the guy. If there's somebody big name that you think is going to be, you could use that money for, then go for it. Cut him and go from there. But I would be shocked if Lamar Houston. I know that people talked about trading him, but I would be shocked. Corners, I don't see anything. Safety, I mean, I knew Antrell Roll was gone. I talked about that from the end of last season. When is that Antrell Roll gone? Offense, they've already cut the offensive lineman. That was the shocker. Running back, we talked about. Quarterback, Hoyer and Cutler are going to be your guys. I think those are going to be the surprise ones. Maybe later on there's a surprise guy that comes in there and wins a starting spot and pushes a veteran out. But I really think there's only going to be those handful of surprise cuts right now. Once they get on pads, once I see how these rookies look, maybe things change. That's really all I have to talk about this week. Is next week we try to have a guest on, talk a little bit Bulls, hopefully. I just got to plan that out. But make sure you guys are subscribed to, whether you listen on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube. Give us 5-star reviews, pass it on, let other people know about the show, and send your questions in, because we love to answer them. I love to read your comments, even if you disagree with me. If you agree with me, that's fine too. If you have a question, just go ahead. But thank you guys so much for listening, and until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like... Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears!
Oh, when the Bears go berry.